Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Phil Bonomo. I'm the director of the Retention People, North America. Really excited to have so many folks on the webinar today and looking forward to sharing some good information with you and ultimately to start a dialogue with you that will hopefully enrich our lives collectively and help us to really understand what the new member journey is all about. So, to begin, I just want to talk a little bit about the title of our presentation today because there's a little double entendre there. We do want to talk about the new member. And so, how do we get a new member onboarded and effectively integrated into our facilities? But I also want us to think about what does the member journey look like today and how has that member journey changed over time? So it's very important for us to think about new members and think about how do we best um, embrace new members, get them integrated into our facilities, and hopefully get them staying for a very long time. And I think the important thing is do we really pay attention to the member journey as a whole, from beginning to the end? And hopefully the end is many years out. So we want to talk about the new member journey on the path for a lifetime of fitness. Here is a fellow that I think needs us. He's just joined our club. He hasn't worked out for years, but it's time for him to start, or he thinks so. He's not necessarily committed to it, and chances are he may not stick around long enough for us to have impact on his health and well being. He's going to give it a try, but we're going to have to do a heck of a job to get him to stay. Now, I think many of you probably feel like a number of the members or new members that walk into your facility very much fit this profile. And this profile is one that unfortunately is a profile that we're seeing more and more these days because, as you can see here, during the past 20 years, there's been a dramatic increase in obesity in the United States. Rates remain high, and more than one third of US adults, and shockingly, approximately 17% of children, are obese. And so, how do we integrate into our facilities this kind of a person? And quite frankly, any person who may or may not be someone who is emotionally and physically committed to a healthy and well lifestyle. How do we get them integrated into our facilities? And how do we truly make a difference in their lives? One of the things I want to point out before we move on is we will take some questions at the end of the session. So you'll see in your dashboard on the right hand side there, you'll see an opportunity for questions. So please feel free as I go on, please feel free to type in any questions that you may have. And it'll be my pleasure to address those questions as we go on in this presentation. And then additionally, if you have any technical issues at all, you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see a little hand, and that hand is basically a raised hand. And if you just click on that raised hand, I'll be able to notice it, and if there are any technical issues, hopefully we'll be in a position to deal with it. So thanks again for being involved today, and let's move on to the new member journey. So the question that I want to ask is how can we engage new members, despite that they may be intimidated, they might not be motivated, they might be bowing to pressure. Maybe it's pressure from their employer, maybe it's pressure from folks in their family. But how do we engage them if in fact the decision to pursue health and wellness may not be top of mind when you consider the fact that many of the folks that walk into our facilities are walking in not having been a part of a health and fitness club in the past. They might be trying to accommodate a spouse or a family member, or they, quite frankly, might not want to be here at all. They know they have to be here, but they don't necessarily want to be here. So, how do we turn those folks that have to be here into folks that really want to be here and to be part of our club community? So, the question is, do we have to change? Is it time to change our new member processes? Is change in our future as health club operators? And I believe that since you folks are all on this webinar today, that you would all agree that change is definitely necessary. So let's go through some of the things that I'd like to discuss today. And what we're going to do is try to be as economical with your time investment as possible. We'll try to keep our webinar till about 45 minutes, so that'll bring us to about 15 minutes before the hour. And then certainly I'm available to each and every one of you to answer any questions and have any discussions about issues that you want to touch base on. So today we want to talk a little bit about statistics, and in a moment I'm going to tell you why statistics are so important to me and to the retention people overall. Also want to spend some time talking about what does it take to sell to the right people? How do you identify the right people for your fitness facility? Want to focus on the 8 weeks, the first 8 weeks, which we believe is the most critical period of every member journey and gaining commitment within that 8 weeks. We want to talk about effective communication. How much is enough? How much is too much? And how do we best communicate with our members to keep them engaged and involved in our facilities? And then finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about member loyalty, which is a real passion of mine, a real passion of us at the Retention People, because we believe very strongly that loyal members stay and loyal members pay. So first, I just want to give those of you who don't necessarily know much about the Retention People just a quick 30-second overview. We are the only firm in the global fitness industry to focus exclusively on member loyalty and retention. We are first and foremost a research company, so everything that we present, everything that we propose, everything that we work with you on is research based. So we've tested it in the field, we've proven it to be effective, and we use that to develop a whole series of software tools and to also provide what I think is probably the industry's best training, consulting, and coaching around member retention and ultimately member loyalty. Those of you who know me know that I like to start a lot of my presentations with this very, very simple graphic, and it allows us all to get on the same page when it comes to what is it that we're all about and what is it that we want to change as fitness clubs. Overall, and this graph here essentially aggregates about 10 years worth of research and certainly involvement with literally thousands of health clubs, and we've found that the retention rate is an extraordinarily consistent and, quite frankly, challenging metric that we all have to pay attention to. Those of you who know what this is a decay curve. So what we're looking at here is, in aggregate, all members join at day 0, month 1, and essentially at one point in your club life, 100% of members are members. But then something very dramatic happens, and that is we begin to see this long and unfortunately alarming dip, this curve that goes out, and we've actually tracked it out here in about 4 years. And this is the decay curve of membership length. So, assuming we have 100% of members that have participated and engaged with us on day one, they really begin to attrit, to move away, to quit from our facilities very quickly. And that decay actually has a nexus that's typically around 12 months, 11.9 months to be exact. And so typically after a 12-month period, 50% of the members that joined our facilities on average have already left. So it says that keeping the new member is truly an industry challenge that we all need to embrace. So, how do we embrace that? Another statistic that I think is really very important and very germane to this discussion today is visit frequency. And we're going to spend some time talking about what are the benchmarks for visit frequency relative to keeping members over a longer period of time. If we look at retention rates over an average of 12 weeks, we've discovered in our research that members that visit at least twice per week stay much longer, and the term we like to use are stickier as members than members who visit less than 2 times per week. Now, I may be preaching to the choir, but sometimes it's good to look at this kind of data in a black and white form. But if you look at this, what we're seeing here is that members overall, and this is across the entire industry, when they only visit less than twice per week, we tend to keep them only about 7 months. Whereas when members visit 2 times per week or more, they're staying an average of at least 14 months. So what we're seeing here, if case in point, if your membership rate is $40, or take your membership rate and multiply it by 77, quite frankly, what we're seeing here is a huge difference in dollars. And so how do we move members who would typically stay an average of 7 months to stay an average of 14 months and even more? And every time I show you these graphs, one thing I want you to be cognizant of is above the lines represent opportunity. Below the lines represent real revenue. So every time we're able to move any of the graphs that I show you today more to the horizontal, we're actually turning opportunity into revenue. So what we've seen here is simply by getting members on average, new members, to stay or to visit at least twice per week, we're essentially doubling the length of their average stay. And what does that mean to you? Well, that means 7 months on average times your monthly EFT. So we're talking real dollars here, folks, and I think it's a very, very important topic to focus on and have discussion on. Truly believe that to keep new members, we have to communicate with those new members. And here at TRP, we actually call communication interaction. And there are a number of ways that you can interact with a member. We believe that the best way to interact with a member is face to face, having a verbal conversation with that member. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the touch points where we can communicate with members and really make a difference going forward. But if you look at this graph, and this can also be communication around email, it can be communication around text messaging, uh, literally any way that we're able to communicate. Chief among them is the face to face. It could be a phone call. But anytime we interact with a member, we're actually creating an opportunity to keep that member longer. So in this graph here, what we're looking at is if we have no interaction with a member, and sadly, once we sell a member, we've discovered that many facilities really don't have ongoing and structured interaction with their members. So what we're seeing is that typically 50% of members who have no interaction, who are left alone, who feel kind of in the wilderness. And think about that young man that I showed you early on in our presentation. If that person doesn't have appropriate interaction from day one with their health and fitness facility, chances are they're going to last only an average of 6.9 months. Simply by having 1 to 3 interactions, it could be an email, it could be a phone call, it could be literally a greeting at the front desk, it could be a face to face with a trainer or with the manager of the facility. We have a dramatic impact on the staying power of that particular member. And essentially, we're going from 7.9 months to 11.5 months. And do the math, multiply that out by your monthly rate. And then one of the most exciting revelations that we've made is when we have 4 or more interactions, so an email, a phone call, a face to face with a member, we've had a dramatic increase in staying power at that member. In fact, it's at least 18 months. And you'll notice here that this graph is actually going out off the horizon. And quite frankly, many of these members are staying for a very long period of time. So communicating with members is absolutely critical to keeping members and to keeping new members over time. So think about that when my friend on the first slide walks into your facility. How are you going to interact with those members to keep them over the long period? And if we had a $50 a month EFT, that has a huge impact on your bottom line, essentially over $500 per member. And just as an aside, when we work with clubs and we work with about 1,000 facilities around the world, we are always looking at, what is the financial impact of the things that we do from a new member journey, member retention, and member loyalty standpoint. And so we always look to calculate what's the return that we can provide. How do we turn opportunity into revenue for health clubs around the world? Additionally, one of the challenges that I'm finding that a lot of club operators are facing nowadays is the idea of contracts. Whether or not we sell on a contract basis, do we sell a 12-month contract, a 24-month contract, or do we allow our members to go month to month? And while I think there's very, very good rationale for going month to month, it certainly lowers the bar or the barrier of entry, and it does really force you as operators to perform on an ongoing basis with members to keep them engaged and retained. But if we look at this figure, we look at contract lengths, and we're starting with 1 month, then we go to 2 to 11 months, a 12-month contract, a contract that's 1 month to 2 years, and then 2 years and above. And I think the evidence is pretty clear. I will say that this is retention by paid members. It's not necessarily retention by attending members. So that's an important bit of information to know. But let's look at this for a second. So if we look at the 12-month retention rate, so anyone that is on a month-to-month basis, we're essentially seeing about 33% of them are sticking with us for 12 months. So while I think the month-to-month contract is an appropriate sales tool, it does lower that barrier to entry. We have to be prepared for the fact that if we give people an easy exit, especially when we're talking about literally changing their lifestyles, we give people the easy exit, sometimes people are willing to take it. So that 12-month retention rate around folks that are month to month is very, very important to look at. Let's take a look for a moment at the member journey, because that's really what we're focusing on today. The member journey is kind of like a life cycle, isn't it? So we start with acquisition, we go to a member that has just joined, so we have a sale, and then we have onboarding with that member. And then we have a point where that member has kind of dialed in to their health and fitness routine. Then we have a member who may very well be struggling. Maybe life's interruptions get in the way, job, family, lack of motivation. Sometimes when people are self motivated, they get stuck in a rut. They're doing the same thing day in and day out. They're not necessarily seeing the changes or feeling the motivation that they need, so they struggle. And then finally, all members, 100% of your members will eventually leave your facility. That is a fact. And our focus as the retention people is how do we get that point from acquisition to leaving the longest period as possible. So we want to make sure that as you acquire new members, that they are going to stay so that their lives will be impacted dramatically by a health and fit lifestyle, but also to impact your bottom line because the longer you keep a member, the more revenue you generate from a member. And it's kind of an interesting parallel when we think about the stages of life, from conception to infancy, to adulthood, to old age, and to the end of life. Let's talk a little bit about these stages, and let's talk about this member journey. And really, here's where the double entendre is. Can we talk about a new member journey, a journey that delivers a fantastic customer experience and maximizes your profits at every stage? So let's start with acquisition. We've done quite a bit of research in the whole idea of member acquisition, and we truly believe that if you're selling to the right people, chances are they're going to stay longer. Now, that might seem to be pretty academic, but the fact is, because we work in a sales cycle that is typically 30 days long, we set monthly goals for ourselves and we're constantly trying to meet those goals. We find ourselves typically at the end of the month perhaps selling to the wrong people, people that may calculate as a sale today, but our ability to keep them over the long period of time might be difficult. So it's critical for us to know which of our members stay longer. And this is really a lesson in demographics, a lesson in knowing what kinds of members are most attracted to your facility. And it's understanding that sometimes the most valuable sale is not one that you're making out of desperation in order to meet a sales number at the end of the month, but it's a sale that you're making because you know exactly what kinds of people are most attracted to and therefore will stay in your facility longer. So it's critical to know which of your members stay longer. That requires you to market to the right people. And I would encourage each and every one of you to take a long look and a close look at how do you, as an organization, market your facility. What kinds of people do you image in your advertising? What media do you use? Do you understand where the majority of your long-standing members come from? Do you look at membership value as those members that stay longer? Because think about it. If you have a member that stays 12 months and pays you $50 a month, that member is worth $600 to you. If you have a member that typically stays 24 months and pays the same amount of money, that member has driven literally double the revenue to your bottom line. So selling to the right people is very, very important. And that's something to take up with your marketing folks and make sure that they understand that they're directing your precious media dollars, your precious marketing dollars to attract the right people. Additionally, there are many ways that you can motivate current members to refer. And this is the old adage, like attracts like. So if you can get your current members excited about your facility make them raving fans about your club, and then ask them and, quite frankly, reward them for referring other members, then you begin to see this kind of continuum of members that are most likely to stay longer in your facility. So, motivating your current members is very, very important. And as I look at the list of folks that are on the webinar today, I know a number of you have very good and very engaging member referral programs. And what's critical there is to make sure that you're constantly fine tuning your member referral program to get your members that are most likely to stay longer to refer other members with that very same profile. Additionally, I think one very, very important thing that we need to all focus on is, can we compel all departments to embrace new members? It's very easy for people within an organization to feel compartmentalized. And I think it's critical for everyone from the general manager to the desk staff to the personal trainers to the group fitness folks to the maintenance people to understand that it is their responsibility across the line to embrace the new member, to make that new member feel accepted, to feel welcomed, and to feel like this is the place for them. Because as we all know, new members often feel a little bit intimidated and often feel a little bit disengaged with a health club. So if we can get all departments to agree to embrace that new member, and that's not necessarily a physical embrace, it's really about simply saying hello, knowing their name, engaging them in conversation, and letting them know that they're wanted and they're needed and they're welcomed in your facility. I love this term, be delightful. You know, every day as fitness operators, we have opportunity to delight our members. And sadly, we find ourselves losing out on those opportunities, missing those opportunities. One area that's terribly critical is the front desk. When a member comes into our facilities, they're either engaged in preparing for their day or taking a break in the middle of their day or using their workout to wrap up their day. And so, what we need to do is presume that every member has had stresses, has had challenges in their day that they would like to perhaps check at the door and spend some time focusing on themselves. When we delight them, and sometimes delight simply comes as a function of a smile or a hello and knowing a person's name, or recommending a particular activity, maybe a group exercise class, to a member so that they will be able to really take advantage of that time that they've set aside for themselves and make the most of it. It's about delighting our members. It's about delighting those people that are paying our bills every day. So think about, how are you delightful to your members on an ongoing basis? Let's talk a little bit about customer acquisition, because I had mentioned earlier, with customer acquisition, it's critical to know what kinds of members are the ones that provide you the most yield in your facility. So let's talk a little bit about how do we do it. So I encourage you to ask yourself, do you know which of your members naturally stay longer? If you know what kinds of members stay longer in your facility and you direct your marketing efforts to that kind of member, I can guarantee you increased success. It's pretty much a fact. Do you know how many of them are in your market area? Now, many of us have done, especially as we've opened new facilities, we've done our diligence. We've identified, what market area is going to be best served by our facility. So I think many of us know, how many of them are in our market area. How far will people willing to travel to come to our facility? But that's a very, very critical point in customer acquisition. And then finally, do we know where they are in their market area? So, are we able to target them not only from a mileage standpoint or from a drive time standpoint, but do we know what neighborhoods our best customers reside? Are we able to target those neighborhoods and really focus our marketing efforts on those? So customer acquisition is a very, very important part of the new member journey process. Do we appeal to those members that are going to be high yield for us, those members that are going to stay longer, a longer period of time than the average members? Do we do that through our marketing? What's the imagery that we're using in our marketing? Does it attract, or or do we simply use imagery that is typical health and fitness marketing imagery? Does our sales approach actively appeal to high yield members? One of the things that we talk very, very strongly about with our customers is it's not about what the facility has, it's how the facility impacts a person's life. So it's not about having 10 treadmills, 10 cross trainers, having 50 pieces of strength equipment. It's about how does this impact a person's life and bring their quality of life to a new level. And so that sales approach is absolutely critical. Do we talk about sales commission when we think about our high yield members? Are we willing as operators to provide salespeople sales commission that is consistent with that high yield member? So if they are able to sell to a member that's in our appropriate demographic, do we compensate them a little more? Or are we willing to simply give them a commission on every transaction that they do? So let's actively appeal to high yield members by compelling our salespeople to focus on those high yield members and make their reward a little richer. What is our product? If we know that our high yield member is a particular demographic, do we ask that high yield member, what is the product that you want us to present? Is it important for us to present a particular group exercise class or to invest in a particular piece of equipment? These are things that are real important, especially when these target members, these high yield members, come into our facility, because then we can point to that particular piece of equipment and say, that is a piece of equipment that is perfect for you. We've done our research and we know that this is something that would be very, very important to impact your health and well being. What does our facility look like? I've got to give you guys a little side note here. I go to a local club in my community, and I'm typically there at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm one of the first folks in the facility, and we have 3 or 4 different people that open up the facility uh, each morning. And one morning of the week, a person opens up the facility who has a penchant for rap music and kind of some of the modern top 40 music. And I think those of you who know me know that that's probably not the demographic that I'm in. And, quite frankly, this person should be trained and should understand that the types of people that are coming into their facility at 5:30 in the morning are not necessarily people that like the kind of music that they like. So how do we focus on the member coming into the facility? Well, sometimes it's just a matter of changing up the radio station. It's literally simply that easy to make someone feel welcome. This morning I went in, and the fellow that was at the front desk is a guy that's about my age, and it was great because what was on as far as music was concerned was something that was very appealing to me. So think about the facilities, the atmosphere when members come in. Does that appeal to that member that's going to be high yield for you, that's going to stay longer for you? What kind of service do you provide? Um, you know, Many of us on the call today, as I see you, are very, very high end service providers. How do we serve? How do we support? How do we embrace that high yield member? And are all of these critical elements maximized to attract high yield members? So I challenge you to think about this relative to your facility. We often do a lot of research for particular facilities, and this is kind of a generic chart. But let's think about this for a second. When you look at this graph, well, it becomes pretty obvious that this club, when we look at this graph, has a particular demographic group that they need to focus on. Is it this group here? Is it this group here? Let me just go back here for a second. We also look at zip codes. So in this group, we have one demographic that's 16 to 24 years of age. We have another demographic that's 35 to 44 years of age. And we have this other demographic that's 45 years of age or older. But look at the difference just between 16 to 24 and 35 to 44. It's at least 4 months longer, and at $50 a month, that's $200 average gain in membership that we can generate. So what I'd strongly recommend is let's look at those demographic groups that are most attracted to your facility. Let's focus on them. One of the things that we often do too is look at zip codes, and this is a generic graph of zip codes. But it's pretty obvious that this zip code here is a more highly performing zip code than this zip code here. So who do we go after? Who do we focus on? Who do we ask our marketing people to direct mail to target, to create events for? Well, obviously, it is the zip code at the top line of the graph and not the zip code at the bottom line of the graph. We all have limited budgets. Let's make sure that we spend those appropriately. So the difference here is about 3.7 months more, simply by targeting geographically the folks that we're going after. So if we sell to the right customer, we'll keep them. This again is another generic graph, but I think it tells a great story. And that is, if we have a member type A, and think about your primary member type compared to another member type, in this case it's member type B, well, it's pretty obvious that member type A performs better for us because, again, as we think about these graphs, everything above the line is opportunity, everything below the line is revenue. So what we've done is we've turned this much opportunity into revenue simply by focusing on a specific member type. So think about the member types that you're serving and think about how do you serve those member types better. And in this case, we're generating 2.5 more months of member attendance and member revenue. We believe at TRP that gaining the commitment, especially in the first 8 weeks, is very, very critical to keeping a member for a longer period of time. And these are a number of things that we focus on a high level to get a new member, someone who's fresh and new, maybe that guy in that first slide that I showed you. How do we keep them over the long period? We truly believe that the commitment to success has to be mutual. And think about this as you present opportunity and close a sale with a new member. That new member has to be, in some way, shape, or form, committed to succeeding in their program. Otherwise, if they're not committed, they're not going to hold up their end of the bargain. Our benchmark is a minimum of twice per week commitment. And in fact, many of the programs that we deploy require members to commit to a minimum of twice per week for the first 8 weeks. And quite frankly, we ask them to write down when are they going to come into the facility? What days next week can we expect them? When members come into the facility and keep that two visit per week commitment, we congratulate them. And then when people drop below that 2 week or two visit per week commitment, we stay on top of them. These are the sliders. Anytime someone is averaging less than 2 visits per week, we should be on alert that their longevity is really at risk. Really lock this concept down. Let's have some discussion about it, but we truly believe that it's all about getting mind share, not pocket share, in that first 8 weeks of membership. A lot of clubs use new members as a feeder for personal training and for paid personal training. Um, that may not be the best approach to keeping a member over the long period of time. They've already made a financial commitment to your facility. Let them get acquainted with your facility. Let them become part of the community in your facility before you start to ask them for more revenue, for more money. So, mind share is really about them thinking, wow, this facility really does pay attention to me. This facility really does care for me. So, think about mind share over that first 8 weeks and not pocket share. Because if we get mind share first, the pocket share, I guarantee, will come over time. How do you communicate with your members? How do you communicate with new members? And how do you communicate across the entire member journey? That's a very, very important topic and something that you really do need to focus on. These are a number of things that we touch base with on our uh, trainings and our discussions with our clients around the world. I truly believe that the front desk sets the stage. When you think about the ringmaster in a circus, the person who is essentially welcoming the attendees and telling them what they can expect and getting them excited about what they're going to experience, the front desk person that is at your facility is really that ringmaster, the person who's really going to set the stage for a great and engaging experience. And it is also the beginning of great communication. So I would strongly recommend that you all think about who's at your front desk. Are they doing the job that you expect them to do? And are they providing great communication to your members? And sometimes it's as simple as telling a member, how are you? And knowing them by name. We believe that communication is very, very important and that the current default is digital communication. But let's not abuse it. Let's not over communicate. Let's really meter the communication that we provide to our members. And again, here's that term delightful. Let's delight our members. Let's give them little presents when it comes to our communications. One of the easiest way to delight a member is if they receive a text message on the day of their birthday that says, "Just thinking of you, happy birthday," from your fitness facility. I think that's something that goes a very, very long way. Additionally, let's say thank you a lot. I think thank you is an underused term in the fitness industry. We want to thank our members for really becoming customers of ours, for really putting their lives in our hands. And I think we can't say thank you enough when it comes to members. So think about where are those things within your operations where it doesn't feel forced, but it feels very natural to say to your members, thank you. Certainly at the end of every group exercise class, at the end of small group sessions, at the end of one on one sessions, and additionally, when a member leaves a facility, is that front desk person, that ringmaster, saying, thank you for coming today. Great to see you. This is a term that I really truly love, and I would encourage all of you as operators to embrace. It's MBWA, and that's management by walking around. We are a people business, and we find ourselves very often wrapped up in what the Excel spreadsheets, what the profit and loss statements, what the sales data is telling us. Sometimes the best way to manage our facilities is to just get up from behind our desks and walk around and interact with our members. We learn a lot, and we actually do a lot because we're telling our members we really truly care about them. They're not simply a transaction to us, but they are really a relationship that we cherish. As managers, I would encourage you to smile and dial. And that's literally, and this is part of delighting a member. Just call a member from time to time, especially if you haven't seen a member in the facility for a while, pick up the phone, give them a call, tell them you're thinking of them, and is there anything that you can do to help them get re-engaged with their facility, or call a member and say thank you for coming to the facility. So smile and dial. We find ourselves defaulting so often to email as our communication tool, and sometimes that voice on the other end of the phone can create great value with a member interaction. So smile and dial. We also recommend that every club operator passionately pursue loyalty. So making members loyal to our facilities is of paramount importance. We want to commit to building a population of promoters, raving fans. These are people that literally will stand beside you when times are tough and will reinforce you when times are good. These are people that come into your facility and are so happy to be there. How do we commit to building that population of raving fans? And these folks are going to help spread the word about your clubs. They're going to help diffuse issues. So if there's any issues coming up, typically these are very very helpful when it comes to dues increases. So let's say you have a annual dues increase that you enforce, at 3% at the end of every year. Well, your raving fans are going to help diffuse those people that get, quite frankly, ticked off when you raise the rates. So making sure that we commit to building a population of promoters is important. Also encourage you to make loyalty a success metric for your club. It's not just about how many people you sell. It's not just about revenue. It's not just about profit margin. It's about loyalty, because the loyal member is one that's going to stay longer and pay longer. So turn that member loyalty into a success metric for your club. So that it has to do with sales, revenue, profit, and loyalty. These are really the four areas that I think every club operators should track in order to determine their success. Bake loyalty into your culture. And this is easier said than done, because loyalty is often a kind of touchy feely concept, but really focusing on how do you get your staff members to try to get your club members more loyal, more passionate, more engaged with your club. How do you bake that into your culture, and how do you use that as a metric for success? So do you include that in every meeting? Do you talk about loyalty as on par as you do sales? Do you deal with disloyal members immediately before they become ex-members? Very, very important. And I think, quite frankly, a critical function for any manager. And do you diligently monitor your social media? Because your disloyal members will spread the word faster using social media than your loyal members will. So, are you diligently monitoring Yelp and Facebook and Twitter, and making sure that you're dealing with any issues that could potentially turn a possible member into an impossible member because they've seen a review or some kind of a comment about your facility on social media? So, bake it into your culture. Make it part of the fabric of every single one of your staff members, because loyal members stay longer. We use a metric called the Net Promoter Score. And the Net Promoter Score identifies members that are either promoters who are very, very loyal to your facility, people that are passive, people that really have no strong opinion about your facility, and detractors. And one of the things that we have found uh, is that detractors have a tendency to leave sooner than loyal people. So here we have detractors in blue, and here we have our promoters, our loyal members in green, and then we have our passives in red. Detractors do not stay longer once they've identified themselves as one of these three. But promoters, because they feel part of your club, part of your culture, and really have selected your brand as one of the brands that they want to be identified with, they will stay longer in your facility. So how do we turn people into promoters? Use the Net Promoter Score. This is an industry standard for gauging customer loyalty, and I encourage each of you to do a little bit more research. in the Net Promoter Score. And it's essentially a one question survey that you send out on a quarterly basis to your members. How likely are you to refer our company to a friend or a colleague? The inventors of Net Promoter Score have identified really three levels of response. We talked about the detractors. And if someone fills out your Net Promoter Score from a 0 to a 6, they're considered a detractor. A 7 or an 8 is a fence sitter, and a 9 or a 10, this is the gold dust. These are the promoters. So really gauge your member loyalty over time. Give them an opportunity to give you a score and then provide an open-ended response to explain that score. The way the score is calculated is if 10 people fill out a Net Promoter Score survey, let's say 4 of them give you a promoter score of 9 or 10, and 4 of them give you a promoter score of 7 or an 8. So on the surface, it looks like 80% of your members have given you a 7 or above rating. That's pretty good, right? And that leaves 2 people, or 20%, that have been detractors. But because these fence sitters are exactly that, fence sitters, they don't have a clear opinion about your facility one way or another. So when we calculate Net Promoter Score, we actually eliminate the fence sitters, and we have an NPS of 20%. So if you adopt Net Promoter Score for your facility, think about the fact that some of the best companies in the world, like Apple, Amazon, Sephora, Zappos, they're all striving to get a Net Promoter Score of 60 to 70%. Some of them tickle 80%, and that's an exceptional Net Promoter Score. But it's all about building loyalty among your customer base and making your brand part of the fabric of a person's life. This fellow here is a guy named Frederick Reichelt. He invented the Net Promoter Score, and he's actually a good friend of the retention people. And I really want you to think about retention as really being not really an operating statistic, but it's the central gauge that integrates all dimensions of your business and measures how well you're creating value. And when you create value for your customers, you're keeping them longer. So the new member journey, whether they're a new member who's just walking into your doors or someone who's been with you for 24, 36, 48 months, that member has to feel like you're creating value every day in order for them to stay with you. And it really is the single indicator for measuring sustainable growth in an organization. So here are the qualities that we feel are important to focus on as fitness operators today. And you'll notice nowhere in here am I saying sales figures. It's about member loyalty. It's about high referrals. It's about low staff turnover. High membership yield, and that means length of membership, and it also means share of pocket. Are members paying over and above their monthly dues to take advantage of products and services that you provide? Are you growing consistently? Now, that doesn't mean dramatic growth, but it means consistent growth. So year over year, are you seeing your sales numbers move up? It's a very competitive market, but growth is an absolute critical driver to your success. So is it consistent? Are you a community hub? Are you the cheers of your community where everybody knows your name? Do you have a great reputation in your marketplace? Are people going on Yelp and saying good things about you? And then finally, do you have a great culture? Is this a culture that builds a staff, a team that really lives and breathes your facility? Is this a culture that builds a membership base that truly feels that your facility is part of who they are as human beings? So they have their home life, they have their work life, they have their club life. Great culture is a great metric to focus your success on. What we try to do as TRP, and I'll quickly go through this, is to help you operationalize the new member journey, member retention, and member loyalty. And we use a concept called customer experience management. So we help you really create a dependable population of customer advocates and transform their opinions into actionable business intelligence. So we improve the member experience, we promote customer loyalty, and we help increase your income by improving retention, increasing that member life, and also increasing referrals. And we have a number of products that we have developed, And as I mentioned early on, we are a research firm first, and these products that we have developed are based on our research. These are things that clubs need in order to manage and improve face to face interactions, to improve our automated email messaging and our text messaging, to improve our ability to engage new members at that important 8 week period as they join your facility, to improve their loyalty using the Net Promoter Score. And we also deploy a group fitness program. Group fitness is a very, very difficult metric to determine whether or not we're successful with it. And so what we've done is we've developed a product that allows us to manage that group exercise reporting. One of the things that I truly recommend to you as we think about a new member journey is this, and I'm sure many of you recognize this young man on the right-hand side of the screen. That's Leonard Bernstein, and he is probably America's best loved, best respected, and best known composer and conductor. He wrote West Side Story, Candide, a fantastic talent. And one of the things he said, which I would like you to take with you today, is this: to achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. The plan really is, how do we create a new member journey so that as we have new members come out into our facility, not only are we engaging them early on in their member journey, but how do we keep them over the long time? But then that not quite enough time. Do we have a sense of urgency for what we're doing? We run on a 30-day sales cycle. We set selling plans so that we're selling, a certain number of memberships on a month-to-month basis. Do we have that sense of urgency when it comes to the member journey, when it comes to keeping the members that we sell longer? And that's a real challenge I'd like to suggest to you today. So Leonard Bernstein, not only a great composer and conductor, but certainly someone I think who can motivate all of us. Finally, I'd like to leave you with this. This is a photograph. Some of you may recognize it, but I'll tell you what it is. This is Death Valley, and it's actually the Badlands in Death Valley. So, and those of you who are extreme athletes in the audience today, you probably know Badlands. They run a 135-mile marathon every year through the Badlands of Death Valley, where the temperatures can reach 130 degrees at surface level. Where if you stop running, chances are your shoes will melt to the floor of Death Valley. So it's a very, very hot, dry, arid environment. In 2004, something very interesting happened in the Badlands, and that is it rained. And it didn't just rain, it rained for 7 inches in the course of 12 hours. So that's quite a bit of rain. And it was something that really had never been recorded before. Another thing that had never been recorded before is the day after this rain fell on Death Valley, something very remarkable happened. And that is, it turned into a bed of flowers as far as the eye could see. Flowers blossomed in this what looks like dead and arid environment. And the fact is that beneath the surface were seeds, and those seeds simply needed some cultivating. They needed some irrigation, they needed water, and they were ready to grow. And so, as you think about the new member journey in your facility, think about it for new members, and also think about the member journey that you provide overall. The seeds of evolution, the seeds of growth, the seeds of evolving your culture as a culture that truly embraces the member and keeps the member for the long period of time, those are there. And it's your role as managers to cultivate, to irrigate, and to grow those seeds into blooming flowers. So the opportunity to turn your culture into one that really does provide a new member journey that keeps members longer and generates greater revenues for your facility is right there. So keep that in mind as you think about how do we integrate these ideas into action in our facilities. So I'm going to end right there. I'm going to take a look and see if there's any questions, And one of the things I'd like to offer you too is we provide sustained involvement and support. I'm happy to talk to any of you if you're even if you're not customers of the retention people. Retention and loyalty is really our passion, and we're compelled to really spread the word of the quality of member retention and loyalty. So, with that, I'm going to say thanks so much for joining us. If any of you have any questions following the end of our webinar, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to provide you whatever answer I can. And I want to thank you so much for spending the last hour with me. I hope it was as engaging and informative for you as it was exciting for me to deliver. So, thanks again, and have a great afternoon.